ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Bhagavad Gita. Dear listeners or viewers, dear devotees, please note that the live chat has been enabled for this video. If you have any questions relating to this discourse, please type it in the live chat and I will try to respond to them at the end of today's discourse or next week's discourse. Please only use this live chat if you have a question. Thank you. Before entering into the proper subject, we shall now chant one of the meditation verse of Bhagavad Gita and then start the actual Bhagavad Gita discussions. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramarthanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Today we are continuing the discussion of verse 58. We have a lot of discussion to do on 58, verse 58, so we will discuss on that. I don't know whether I can enter into the 59th verse, but I will try because a lot of discussion has to be done. So we will start with the 58th verse. The 58th verse is displayed there on the screen too. You will be also having your books with you. We shall now learn the chanting. Yada samharate chayam Yada samharate chayam Kurmonganiva sarvashaha Kurmonganiva sarvashaha Indriyanindriyartebhyaha Indriyanindriyartebhyaha Tasya prajna pratisthita Tasya prajna pratisthita. The simple meaning of this 58th verse is, moreover, when he, the prajna, the man of knowledge, completely withdraws the sense organs from the senses or from the sense object, when he completely withdraws the sense organs from the sense object, just as a tortoise withdraws its limbs, then his knowledge becomes firm. Last time we had a very deep discussion on this verse because we had come to the practical aspect of this particular verse, and we were seeing that Lord Krishna is trying to take us through three different disciplines to control our mind. So this is all based on our control of mind, control of senses, and how to make it firm and steady, by which we can get to this eternal freedom or liberation. So now Lord Krishna in the earlier verses has given us about our real nature. We have to establish ourselves with that knowledge. So based on this knowledge, now we are going to see how Krishna helps us to control our senses, that is Indriya Nigraha, and then control our mind, that is Mano Nigraha, the thought process. So we shall now see the practical aspect, the psychological aspect of this verse, which is very, very beautiful and important. That's why I'm taking more time to explain this verse, which will help us at the thought level, at the emotional level, and at the sense level to control our mind and keep our mind calm and quiet and peaceful. So it's very, very helpful. So let us go and see what are the things told by Lord Krishna. Up to verse number 57, Lord talked about the person who has attained the knowledge of Atman. who has come to know, who has nicely understood the intellectual conviction about he is the Atman and the nature of Atman. So we have studied, we have talked about that person. Now, and also who has converted that knowledge of the Atman or Paramatman or God into emotional strength. Not only he has become a Prajnaha, but he has become a Sthira Prajnaha, man of steady wisdom. Here we can find the mental transformation. Not only mere cognitive change, but there is emotional transformation too. Such a person is called Sthira Prajna or Sita Prajna, man of perfection. So many other names can be given. So these are all called Sthita Prajna Lakshana. Now, 58th verse onwards, Lord Krishna is changing the topic. What's he changing? How can a person convert this knowledge of the Atman or Paramatman or our real nature, my real nature, your real nature, into emotional strength so that you can keep your mind steady and strong? So that knowledge of Atman was discussed in the second verse itself, because that's why it's called Gnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, from the 12th verse to 25th verse. If you go through the 12th verse to 25th verse of this second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you will come to know Lord Krishna has discussed about the Atmaswarupa, the nature of Atman, that is your real nature or my real nature. Now, how to make use of this knowledge? How to get help with that knowledge to control our Indriya? Now we are under the spell of our senses. The senses are running away. They are the doorkeepers or doorway to this external world. So all the sense objects and other things in the happenings in the external world, favorable, unfavorable, so many things, that is the way by which it enters our mind and causes either happiness or disturbance. And what Krishna told in the earlier this thing, Matra Sparshasya Kaunteya, Shitoshna Sukha Dukkadaha, it will give us heat and cold, pleasure and pain, victory and failure, so many other things, all the dualities of this world. So now this Indriyas are the source by which we are connected to this world, and our mind goes out or comes in, and the world also comes in into our mind. So now in this verse, as we told earlier, Krishna takes us through three disciplines to become steady in mind. What are those? The first thing is Nididhyasana. In all the other next verses, Krishna will be going on in details about these three disciplines, or sadhana or spiritual disciplines, spiritual exercises by which we can control our mind, we can control our indriyas, we can become steady, men of steady wisdom. So we were in the last class discussing about the three processes. The first one, if you remember, it is Nididhyasana. And what is Nididhyasana? It is Vedantic meditation, dwelling on the real nature of your Atman, the nature of the Paramatman who is in your own heart, or your own nature, the real nature, the Atman. So dwelling on that. The Guru has taught us, the scriptures have taught that, so that is Vedantic meditation, that's called Nididhyasana. Then the next process was the Indriya Nigraha, that is the regulation of the senses. And the third process, or the third exercise by which Lord Krishna is trying to take us in all the next verses, is Mano Nigraha, the regulation of our mind, the thought process, which will help us to make our mind steady, and we can take in control of the Indriyas, our senses, and our mind too, the thought too. Earlier, they were taking care of us. In the sense, they were controlling us. The Indriyas are now at present controlling us. Our mind is controlling us. Instead of the dog wagging the tail is wagging the dog. So they are controlling us. They are our masters. We are the slaves of our indriyas, that is senses. We are the slaves of our mind. Now Krishna is taking us through these exercises by which we can become the masters of our indriyas, that is the senses, and our mind. So let us go and see what Lord Krishna is trying to tell us. Now we stopped in the last discussion up to the emotional build-up. How emotion is created, how the emotion can cause us disturbances. What is this emotion? So to convert this knowledge into emotional strength, about these things we were discussing in the last class. So from there I will take up the discussion. Now, any emotion is a built-up emotion. No event can produce an emotion. Just one event, external event, it cannot, until unless in a second or so it doesn't create an emotion. Even the most tragic event, when we listen first as an information, it is just a cognitive process. Suppose I see, I've given this example earlier too, again I will take you through that. I hear something, a news in the TV channel or in the newspaper, telling that there was a big accident, so many people died. So now, when you are going through that, you'll be sipping your coffee, eating the snacks, sitting in front of the television. You'll be enjoying the coffee, you'll be enjoying the snacks, and seeing all those, the accident which has happened, that so many people have died. You are not at all disturbed by that. It has not caused you any emotion which can disturb you. There will be some emotions in your mind, but it is not taken control of you, or it is not troubling you. So then the newsreader will take you to tell that it happened in your own country. Then suddenly you will start feeling something. The emotions start building up. Then the newsreader will start telling that it happened in your own province. Then your mind, because what is happening now? The I, the ego, is getting closer and closer. The event is becoming closer to my ego, to myself. I'm identifying with that event now. So as I get attached, as I get identified myself with that event, then you can see the buildup of the emotion. Oh, is it in our own province? Where did it happen? Then the newsreader will tell, oh, it happened very near to my place. Then I'm still involved in it. The heartbeat becomes more, adrenaline starts secreting. What has happened? Where is it? It is in our area. Then the newsreader will tell it is very nearby to your place. Then you are still more disturbed because it is coming closer, closer to me, that I. The attachment is becoming more and strong. Then you will come to know the newsreader tells that so many, the names, the list of the people who uh, got into that accident and they passed away, or they are now wounded, they have been hospitalized. Then you will see that they are the near and dear ones. Then you'll throw away the coffee, you'll throw away the snacks, because until then you are not at all attached to that. Now it has become more closer and closer to your I. So when you start attaching it to yourself, when you start identifying your I, that ego, with that, then it builds up. Until then it was just a news. You're enjoying your coffee. But now when it came closer, closer, closer to your I, then you see you are getting disturbed. Everything is in pell-mell. So even the most tragic event, when we listen first, is an information. It is a cognitive process that is taking place. It never produces emotion immediately that can disturb me or put me into trouble. But when I identify myself with that event, then starts the build-up. So that's called attachment. I leave it again and again in my mind. Now, for example, there is the another example can be given, the crash in the economy or the economy is collapsing everywhere in the world. So you will be happy to know that when until your money is safe in the bank. When you come to know that your money is also gone, then starts the build-up. So I start living it again and again. Money is gone. What will I do tomorrow? I'll be dwelling upon that hours, days, even weeks. That becomes such a powerful emotion called then anger, frustration, depression. And therefore, every emotion is thought built up. You are getting attached to that. You are identifying your ego, your individuality with that event. Then it becomes a emotion which can control you, disturb you, violent. It can shake you off. So that's why now Krishna is taking us through, first of all, by learning about your real nature, because don't identify with this ego and the events. Identify yourself with that knowledge that you are the Atman, you are Paramatma Swarupa, you are eternal, you are true, Satya, Nitya, Sarvavyapi, you are all pervading. Nobody can destroy you, you are indestructible. You need not depend upon any of the external factors for happiness and peace and security. You are infinite peace, you are infinite security, you are infinite bliss. So all these things, this knowledge, when you identify with yourself with that, then there is no problem. When you start identifying, attaching with these things, then the problem starts. But now we should study, we should understand what these emotions are scientifically, psychologically. What are these emotions? What are these thoughts? How are they useful to us? How can it be beneficial to us? How can it be troublesome to us? Emotions, all these things are good. So let us study, make a detailed study, deeper study about all these things. Then we can easily have a power to control them. So now I'll take you to the scientific study of what these emotions are. Now, what are these emotions? We should know what are these emotions. Psychologically, physiologically, what are these? Neurologically, emotions exert an incredibly powerful force on human behavior. Strong emotions can cause you to take actions you might not normally perform or to avoid situations you enjoy. Why exactly do we have emotions? What causes us to have these feelings? Researchers, philosophers, and psychologists have proposed different theories to explain on how and why behind human emotions. Then we have to understand what is emotion. What is emotion? In psychology, emotion is often defined as a complex state of feeling that results in physical and psychological changes that influence thought and behavior. So we came to know what is emotion. What is that emotion? Again, I will repeat it. In psychology, emotion is often defined as a complex state of feeling that results in physical and psychological changes that influences our thought and behavior. This is called emotion. Emotionality is associated with a range of psychological phenomena including temperament, personality, mood, and motivation. According to author David G. Myers, human emotion involves physiological arousal, expressive behaviors, and conscious experiences. So let us see what are the theories of these emotions. The major theories of emotions can be grouped into three main categories. What are they? Physiological, neurological, and cognitive. Physiological theories suggest that responses within the body are responsible for emotions. Again, I will read what is physiological theory. physiological theory suggests that responses within the body are responsible for emotions. Okay, we have come to know what is this physiological theories, what is neurological theory about emotion. This neurological theories propose that activity within the brain leads to emotional responses. Okay, this is the neurological theory of emotion. Then what is the cognitive theory? But cognitive theories argue that thoughts and other mental activity play an essential role in forming emotions. So we have studied these three. Now let us go and see what our great Charles Darwin, in his evolutionary theory, he has also propounded evolutionary theory of emotion. So it is very, very ancient. So we will be in a better position to understand the emotions of even animals from the state of every living beings. So now what is that evolutionary theory of emotion? So this will make it clear, very clear. It was naturalist Charles Darwin who proposed that emotions evolved because they were adaptive and allowed humans and animals to survive and reproduce. So you came to know, according to naturalist Charles Darwin, who proposed that emotions evolved because they were adaptive and allowed humans and animals to survive and reproduce. Feelings of love and affection lead people to seek mates and reproduce. Feelings of fear compel people to either fight or flee the source of danger. So now, naturalist Charles Darwin is proposing these emotions. According to the evolutionary theory of emotion, our emotions exist because they serve an adaptive role. So they are necessary, emotions are necessary. They serve an adaptive role. Emotions motivate people to respond quickly to stimuli in the environment, which helps improve the chances of success and survival. So emotions were used, are even now being used by the animals, by all human beings too. Why? They motivate people to respond quickly to stimuli in the environment, which helps improve the chances of success and survival. So they're useful. Emotions are useful when you use it properly. So you can see in the animal kingdom they are used properly, practically. So all the problem starts in the human kingdom when we start overdoing it, reliving it, and attaching to it and getting into problem. So when you identify your ego with that, then all the problem starts. Understanding the emotions of other people and animals also play a crucial role in safety and survival. If you encounter a hissing, spitting, and clawing animal, chances are you will quickly realize that the animal is frightened or defensive and leave it alone. By being able to interpret correctly, what will happen? What is the use of that? By you are able to interpret the emotions of the other animal correctly, emotional display of other people and animals, you can respond correctly and avoid danger. So you can avoid danger by understanding and studying the emotions displayed by other animals, other human beings. Now we'll take you through another theory, that is James Lange theory of emotion. The James Lange theory is one of the best known examples of a physiological theory of emotion, independently proposed by psychologist William James and physiologist Carl Lange. The James Lange theory of emotion suggests that emotions occur as a, as a result of physiological reactions to events. This theory suggests that seeing an external stimulus leads to a physiological reaction. Your emotional reaction is dependent upon how you interpret those physical reactions. For example, suppose you are walking in the woods, in the forest, and see a grizzly bear. You begin to tremble and your heart begins to race. The James Lange theory proposes that you will conclude that you are frightened. I am trembling, therefore I am afraid. According to this theory of emotion, you are not trembling because you are frightened. Instead, you feel frightened because you are trembling. Now, let us go through another theory, the Cannon-Bard theory of emotion. Another well-known physiological theory is the Cannon-Bard theory of emotion. Walter Cannon disagreed with James Lange theory of emotion on several different grounds. First, he suggested people can experience physiological reactions linked to emotions without actually feeling those emotions. How? For example, your heart might race because you have been exercising, not because you are afraid. So that too can happen. So he doesn't agree with the James Lange theory. Cannon also suggested that emotional responses occur much too quickly to be simply products of physical states. When you encounter a danger in the environment, you will often feel afraid before you start to experience the physical symptoms associated with fear, such as shaking hands, rapid breathing, and a racing heart. Cannon first proposed this theory in the 1920s, and his work was later expanded on by physiologist Philip Bard during the 1930s. According to the Cannon-Bard theory of emotion, we feel emotions and experience physiological reactions such as sweating, trembling, and muscle tension simultaneously. More specifically, the theory proposes that emotions results when the thalamus sends a message to the brain in response to the stimulus, resulting in physiological reaction. At the same time, the brain also receives signals triggering the emotional experience. Cannon and Bard's theory suggests that the physical and psychological experience of emotions happen at the same time and that one does not cause the other. Now we shall go to Cannon-Bard theory of emotion. We have finished it. We will go to Schacher-Singer theory. Also known as the two-factor theory of emotion, the Schacher-Singer theory is an example of cognitive theory of emotion. This theory suggests that the physiological arousal occurs first, and then the individual must identify the reason for this arousal to experience and label it as an emotion. A stimulus leads to a physiological response that is then cognitively interpreted and labeled, resulting in an emotion. Schacher and Singer's theory draws on both the James Lange theory and the Cannon-Bard theory. Like the James Lange theory, the Schacher-Singer theory proposes that people infer emotions based on physiological responses. The critical factor is the situation and the cognitive interpretation that people use to label that emotion. Like the Cannon-Bard theory, the Schacher-Singer theory also suggests that similar physiological responses can produce varying emotions. For example, if you experience a racing heart and sweating palm during an important examination, you will probably identify the emotion as anxiety. If you experience the same physical response when you are meeting a near and dear one, you might interpret the same experience with those responses as love and affection. Now, let us go through the two-factor theory of emotion, cognitive appraisal theory. According to appraisal theory of emotion, thinking must occur first before experiencing emotion. Richard Lazarus was a pioneer in this area of emotion, and this theory is often referred to as the Lazarus theory of emotion. According to this theory, the sequence of events first involves a stimulus followed by thought, which then leads to the simultaneous experience of a physiological response and the emotion. For example, if you encounter a bear in the woods, you might immediately begin to think that you are in great danger. This then leads to emotional experience of fear and the physical reaction associated with the fight or flight response. Now we shall go to another beautiful theory, that is facial feedback theory of emotion. The facial feedback theory of emotion suggests that facial expressions are connected to experiencing emotions. Charles Darwin and William James both noted early on that sometimes physiological responses often had a direct impact on emotion rather than simply being a consequence of the emotion. So now we are coming to the close of this study. According to the psychology, supporters of this theory suggest that emotions are directly tied to changes in facial muscles. For example, people who are forced to smile pleasantly at a social function will have a better time at the event than they would if they had frowned or carried a more neutral facial expression. I'll go through that again. Very important. For example, people who are forced to smile pleasantly at a social function will have a better time at the event than they would if they had frowned or carried a more natural facial expression. Neutral, not natural, carried a more neutral facial expression. So now finally, despite the fact that emotions impact every decision we make and the way we see the world, there is still a lot of mystery surrounding why we have emotions. Research on emotions continues to explore what causes feelings and how these feelings affect us. But our great psychologists, our great scientists, the rishis, the seers, have already studied it very well. They have found the answers. They have studied the problems thoroughly, and thousands of years back, they have propounded their theory. And now Lord Krishna is taking us through that. We studied this only because we wanted to know what are emotions. We got the idea. So now we shall see how Lord Krishna takes it. So we were discussing about emotion. One thought cannot become an emotion, which can trouble me. When we identify ourselves with it and allow it to trouble us, does it become an emotion to disturb us? To attach with it or not, with that emotion or not, to build it up or not, allow that emotion to control me or not is in our choice. It is in our hand. I can refuse to build it up, attach to it. I can set it aside. I'll give you an example that it is in our hand. You can do that. It's your choice. Once one young man wanted to defeat Lord Buddha in argumentation, so he went there and posed a question to Lord Buddha. I have a very, very small living creature in my hand. It may be an insect, it may be a bird. I have it in my fist like this in my hand. Now, I want, O Lord Buddha, that you should answer whether that living creature is alive or dead. What was the intention of this young man? How did he want to defeat Lord Buddha? He thought if Buddha tells that living creature or that creature is alive, then he will squeeze it inside the hand and kill it and then show that the animal is dead. So Buddha, you are wrong. Then suppose Buddha tells it is dead, then he knows it is alive. Then he will release it without killing it, and so the bird or that creature will fly and he will tell Buddha, you are wrong. So now what was the beautiful answer? Buddha was a realized soul. Buddha was the avatara. He knows what is happening in his mind. What was the beautiful answer which Lord Buddha gave? He told that creature is alive or dead is in your own hands. If you set it free, it is alive. If you squeeze it, it is dead. So, whether that creature is alive or dead is in your own hand. You have to decide it. Likewise, to get into trouble with the emotions, because emotions are useful tools. As I told you, we made a study for the survival, for the adaptation of these, by this thing you can adapt to the new situation and survive in this world. Nature has provided all those emotions to help us to go forward. So, to get attached to that, to get into trouble, to use that emotion to disturb myself, get into stress, get into depression, is by identifying myself with that which the animals will not do it. It's only in the human beings it becomes a tool of destruction. So in the animals you don't see such emotions will be misutilized or abused. It's only in the human beings. So if you don't, it is in your hand to get attached to that or not, to identify with that emotion or not. So that is in your hand. You can refuse to build it up, to attach to that emotion. So I will set it aside, that event or circumstances, situation, maybe after a month or two, when my mind is quiet, when my mind is sane and peaceful. If I want to learn something from that emotion or that event without getting disturbed emotionally, I can bring up that event again and I can study it and learn good valid lesson and forget it. To build up these thoughts, to allow it to disturb me or not to allow it to disturb me, is in my own hands. It's my choice. It's my decision. That's what Lord Krishna is taking us here. So I can refuse to build that up, that line of thinking or attach to it. And that is called mental regulation. Last time, Lord Krishna took us through what is Nididhyasana, dwelling on the thought and the knowledge of Atman, your own self. Then the next was Indriya Nigraha. So we went through what is meant by the sense regulation. Now, Lord Krishna took us through mental regulation, the third exercise. So, this is called mental regulation. Three exercises we discussed in the beginning and also in the last classes. Three disciplines the Lord is taking us through, and in future verses too will be taking us through that. Nididhyasana, Vedantic meditation, dwelling on the Vedantic thoughts or knowledge of Brahman or knowledge of your own soul, that is Atman, Atmagnana, Indriya Nigraha, Mano Nigraha, mental regulation, regulation of the thought process. Any event which creates emotional build-up or disturbance, I will keep it aside. I will not dwell upon it. This is called Mano Nigraha. This is called controlling of my mind. So if we practice this Indriya Nigraha, sense regulation, and Mano Nigraha, that is regulation of the thought process, the benefit is our mind will not have violent emotions. Our mind will not have violent emotions and we will not get into stress, we will not get into depressions, and all sorts of psychological problems will not be there. So you need not get into that. What do we do? We always go on thinking about the things which have already happened and worry over that. I go on worrying continuously. Oh, these things happened in my life, so much of difficulty, that man or this woman or these people troubled me. They put me into this trouble. I was tortured. This event put me into trouble. So I go on reliving it again and create more emotions and get into trouble. I'm the person who is creating this problem. Nobody is doing that. Get detached. That is what Lord Krishna is telling. You can easily, it is in your choice. So by this Indriya Nigraha, control of the senses in the beginning itself, not allowing the Indriya to the sense objects and other things to come into your mind, which is dangerous, which are troublesome. Whatever you want, which are safe, you can take it in. You can have those experiences, but which are troublesome, shun it. It's in your hand. Then what is Mano Nigraha? The thought process which is happening in your mind, it is again you are the master of the mind. You can also take control of it, and you need not allow to build those emotions up to trouble you to such an extent that it will grow up, that it will trouble you. It should not disturb you. Don't allow it. That is Mano Nigraha. That is the regulation of the mind, thought process. Now, how can this be done? The Indriya Nigraha and Mano Nigraha, you can do it by absorption, by thinking the Nididhyasana, by meditating on your real nature. So if you do not identify with these thought process, with these happenings, with your ego, with your mind, if you start identifying yourself with your real nature, that is the Parabrahma Swarupa, Satchit, Ananda, infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite consciousness, infinite bliss, joy, you are of that nature. That's your true nature. Abundance of security, abundance of peace, abundance of joy within you. Identify with that. Do not identify with these emotions. Then the problem is solved. That by that you can have this Indriya Nigraha and Mano Nigraha. That's what Lord Krishna is taking. So that's the first step is Nididhyasana, that is meditation or your real nature, Vedantic meditation. Now, knowledge of the self, then alone this knowledge of the self will get absorbed into our subconscious mind. We have to allow that knowledge to sink in, to seep in to our subconscious mind. Every aspect of the thought and everything should be permeated with this knowledge of the Atman. How? Like the pickle. The pickle floats in that oil, the masala, the liquid of the masala. There will be salt. There will be this savory things. There will be the chilies. All that will go inside the pickle. And also it will be floating in those things. It will be permeating both inside and outside. Like that, the knowledge of Atman about your true nature should permeate every aspect of your life. You should identify with that. Should go deep into the subconscious mind, everywhere on the conscious mind, everything. So like that pickle, we have to float in the knowledge. Our mind should float in the knowledge of Atman, the true, the eternal, the Parabrahma Swarupa. It should float in God. It should go deep. This aspect of Atman, the knowledge of Atman should go deep into our mind. And this knowledge should penetrate into every cell of our body, every vein, every nerve. Then only, then alone, it will transform my life into emotional. It will transform my life. And also, the knowledge will get transformed into emotional strength. Thus, Lord Krishna takes us through the three sadhanas. So they are complementary. Step by step. First it is the knowledge, dwelling on the knowledge, Nididhyasana, Vedantic meditation. The second comes the Indriya Nigraha, regulation of our sense organs, senses. Then Mano Nigraha, regulation of the thought process. So intermingling, complementary. So that's how we can make your mind steady. That's how you can come out of it. Just like the other animals, make it practical. Use those emotions for your adaptation, for your survival. There ends the matter. Don't take it too much. Don't get attached to that and get into trouble. That's what now Krishna is taking us through this shloka. So how that can be done? So now Lord Krishna uses the example of the tortoise. The tortoise is taken here. So now of these three processes, the disciplines, three disciplines, sadhanas, that's Nididhyasana, Indriya Nigraha and Mano Nigraha, three processes, Krishna is highlighting the sensory regulation. From verse number 58 onwards up to verse number 61, Krishna will be highlighting this. What is that? Sensory regulation. That is Indriya Nigraha. So it's sensory regulation. from the 58th verse to 61st verse. So these 4 verses will deal about sensory regulation, how to control our indriyas. By whom? Who should do that? Prajna. He has not yet become a Sthita Prajna. He has come to know about the knowledge, but now he has not yet become steady in knowledge. So that person has to undergo this sense regulation, that is Indriya Nigraha. A Sthira Prajna or Sthita Prajna does not need. Once you become steady wisdom, Sthira Prajna, your mind has become steady, then you know it's not necessary. This Indriya Nigraha is not necessary. Mano Nigraha is also necessary because he is already steady. A Sthira Prajna who is already established in the wisdom completely need not have sensory regulation. Why? Because his knowledge is so firm. As we told, it is permeating. Have you heard the statement of Swami Vivekananda? Take up one idea, think of it, dream of it. Let that thought permeate every vein and every cell and every nerve of yours. That is the way to success. This is a statement of Swami Vivekananda. Likewise, take up this knowledge, the knowledge of the Atman, your real nature, the knowledge of God, and let it permeate every aspect of your life. Then the Indriyas cannot control you. You can be the master. Then it cannot be violent and trouble you. Then the emotions will be there to help you. Then the emotions will not trouble you. Why? Because the knowledge of the Lord, your real nature, is already soaked into your subconscious mind and every aspect of your mind. It will not allow you. You are now Sthita Prajna. Now, here Krishna gives an example of sensory regulation. As I told you, from this 58th verse to 61, it is sensory regulation, Indriya Nigraha. Now, in this 58th verse, Lord Krishna is giving the example for sensory regulation, Indriya Nigraha. And what is the example? The example of the tortoise. A turtle, it can easily be killed because it does not have any special weapon in its hand. You know that it's so slow. It doesn't have any weapons like poisonous fangs or claws or any other aggressive things in it as tools or weapons. So it is very gullible. Anybody can attack it. So this turtle or the tortoise can be easily killed because it does not have any special weapon in its hand to strike back. Every other animal has got horns, nails or strong legs or something. When tortoise does not have any weapon to fight back, therefore in any situation it can be easily killed. Therefore Bhagavan, the Lord, has given it a protective armor. A thick shell is given. You cannot do anything to that shell. Therefore, what does the tortoise do? It freely moves about. Sightseeing, just like the sightseeing, going about here and there, it freely moves. And the moment it sees the slightest danger, it does not have the strength to fight and therefore it withdraws its 4 legs and the head into that shell. So all the 5 organs, the 4 legs and the head, is withdrawn into the shell, which is outside. All the 5 limbs are withdrawn. Now here the number 5 is very, very important. Why? Why is the tortoise taken by Krishna as an example here? Because we have 5 senses. We have all these 5 senses which are exposed to this external world. So whenever there is a danger, just like this tortoise, instead of getting into trouble, take it, withdraw it. That's why Lord Krishna is giving the example of this tortoise. Sense organs are also 5. Therefore, 4 legs and 1 head, all the 5 limbs are withdrawn. How long? Will it be permanently there? No. So how can we live in this world? So you be free. Go about, do about all the work. Serve your parents, serve your wife, children, husband, everybody. Do all the work. Serve your boss, work, earn money, get more wealth, everything. You can do everything in this world. But whenever there is the chances of danger, you come to know this is dangerous, withdraw like the tortoise. Therefore, Lord Krishna is giving this example. How long should you withdraw and stay there? Until the threat is there. The moment the threat is over, you can come out again, do the regular activities. That's why this beautiful example of tortoise is given by Lord Krishna, so that we can easily understand how to withdraw our senses. When the threat is gone, then you can come out, do your activities again. Start the journey. Similarly, a prajna, a man who has got the knowledge of Atman, now we have come to know with the help of Krishna what is our real nature. You can transact with the world freely. But the moment he sees there is an occasion where the raga, there is attachment, dvesha, the hatred, kama, lust, krodha, anger may be provoked or invoked, where the ego can become stronger. So there you withdraw, retreat, just like the tortoise. So now we are, before entering into this world, that's why Ramakrishna gives us the beautiful example of the cutting the jackfruit. Before you start cutting the jackfruit, if you don't smear your hands and the instrument with which you cut the knife properly, and the ground also, with the oil, then the gum or that sticky thing is so very bad that you cannot wash it at all. If it sticks to your hands, it will take maybe days together to clean it. It's very, very difficult. But you can avoid that. So this life, these emotions, all these things, this raga, dvesha, the attachment, they're all attachment. It will stick on to you. Very difficult to extricate from that. Dvesha, hatred, kama, lust, krodha, anger, all these enemies are very difficult. So before entering into this world, Ramakrishna gives the example telling that how to cut before cutting the jackfruit, to smear your hands and the instrument, the knife, with the oil. Then these things cannot harm you. It's very easy to, because it doesn't stick then. You don't get attached to it. That's the main thing. That's why the whole of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna will be telling you detachment and detachment and detachment. So how to get that in the beginning itself? Even before cutting the jackfruit, not after starting the cutting. Before cutting, you smear with your hands. So that's what Ramakrishna tells us. You gain devotion to the Lord, gain the knowledge of the Lord. You gain the knowledge of the Lord, then enter into the world, then all these things will not trouble you. Gain devotion to Lord. How do you get devotion? By knowledge of the Lord, by gaining knowledge of the Lord. That's what Krishna gave us here from 12th to the 25th verse in this second chapter. Lord Krishna gave us the knowledge of your own Atman or the Lord. So gaining this knowledge, now you enter into this. So these things will not stick. This will not trouble you. The ego cannot become stronger. It doesn't get attached to these things. So now we shall give an example. Now let us think that you are a non-argumentative person. You also will become argumentative if the other person start argument with you, and they are very expert in that, drawing into the argument. A very interesting experiment you can do on yourself. Normally, let us hope that you are not an arguing type. But there are some people who can provoke you into argument. Unknowingly, you will find that you are in the argument, and once you get into it, it is like you cannot go back again. How? Once you get into the trouble, then very difficult to come out of it, get attached to that. How? You use the toothpaste every day. Like the toothpaste, it comes out. You press the toothpaste, it comes out, then you cannot put it back. You cannot send the paste into that pouch again back. Likewise, once you get into this, attached to these things, emotions, let the indriyas and other things to master you and control you, then it's very difficult to put it back. Like the toothpaste, once it comes out, It cannot be pushed back inside. So remember the toothpaste always. Once you get into this argumentation or allow that emotions to control you, get attached to that, it's extremely difficult. So what is the remedy? Prevention is better than cure. That's what Krishna is asking you to, the Indriya Nigraha. That's why the tortoise example is given. Don't get attached to those things or get into that altercation or argumentation with these things. So prevention is better than cure, and once you get into it, if you successfully withdraw, it is a great accomplishment, very wonderful experiment, very interesting. So you have to be always observing your mind and indriyas, how it is functioning. You should be aware, live in the present, don't go on worrying about the past and don't be anxious about the future. Live in the present. This is life. God has given you this life, this moment. I do not know what is next. So why are you worried about the future? What is next? So be aware, be conscious of what you are doing now. So these things cannot affect you. That's what mindful meditation. You can successfully withdraw from these emotions. Therefore, you can see that how the things and situations can carry you away. That's why Krishna is telling Kurmaha Angani Samharate. Kurma is a tortoise, Samharate withdraws its 5 limbs, Sarvashaha, from all 5 directions. When does it do? Not all the time. You cannot walk with a closed eyes or withdrawing everything. You can't do your actions. Not all the times. Only when there is threat. When there is possible distraction. Every day you can see, you can take the example of you want to watch the TV. TV can give you many programs like Ramayana and Mahabharata and many good things too. But with those wonderful and good things, there are many terrible programs, very bad programs. Most of them are very bad. It can pollute your mind, it can disturb your emotions, it can disturb your whole life, it can increase your BP, it can increase your diabetes, it can increase anything, it can cause heart problem. So now you have to decide to see what program you have to watch on the TV instead of seeing all the dirty things and then trying to control the mind. Why should you first of all get into it? There is a beautiful Sanskrit saying explaining that. I've stopped my discussion today on this chapter. We shall continue the discussion in the next class too, because it's very important aspect. Control of our indriyas, the senses, control of our mind, manograha nigraha, indriya nigraha. It's very important. It will help us. So how this knowledge can help us? So Krishna is taking through the wonderful thing. It's very beneficial for us. So what is that beautiful Sanskrit saying? Prakshalanati pankasya durat asparshanam varam. What is the meaning of it? It is better not to come in contact with the muddy slush or dirt or the gutter water. It's better not to come in contact with that. Then after getting and touching those muddy gutter water or the dirty water, the dirty thing, and then going and washing your hands, instead of, you need not go and touch it at all. Pankasya durat asparshanam varam. So it's called the muddy water or the dirty water or the gutter water. It's better not to touch it and then go and wash using all the sanitizers and the soap. Better be far away. That's what now we are in this epidemic. We are now being taught social distancing. So now we shall study about this, because now we have already completed our time. Lot of things to discuss, and it is wonderful, so beautiful thing subject we are going through. So that's why I'm taking you through psychology, emotions and all those things, so that we can understand this and practice. So now this is the time for question and answer. and also clearing the doubts, but we don't have any questions. So we shall complete our discussion with the closing prayer. If you don't have any questions, I can give you 1 minute or half minute. If you have any questions, you can type it. If you don't have any questions on today's discussion, I can just close the discussion with the meditation verse on Bhagavad Gita. I think we don't have any questions. I shall now chant the meditation verse. Om Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum langhayate girim Yatkripatamaham vande Paramanandamadhavam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, that is Thursday and Friday, early in the morning at 6:30, we have the study of the great master Sri Ramakrishna's life, Leela Prasanga, written by Shardanandaji Maharaj. Then Saturday again we have the discussion on Bhagavad Gita in the evening. Then Sunday and Monday early in the morning we have the discussion on Great Master. Then Monday evening we have the significance of the science of worship discussion. Tuesday we have the discussion on Vivek Chudamani, the crucible of discrimination. Again Wednesday, that is today, will be again continuing into the study of Mano Nigraha, Indriya Nigraha. It's very, very important in the we will continue the discussion of the 58th verse, then go to the 59th verse. So we don't have any questions until now, so we shall now end the class. Okay. Namaste. Thank you. Om Namo Narayana.